You have a time machine. You go back to that version of you that
Yeah.
first year. What do you tell her?
Well, I'm not sure that I would tell her to do anything different because I think we have to learn through our mistakes.
Yeah.
And then we have to just fall in love with those mistakes
Uh-huh.
so that we can have these wise, redemptive, reflective conversations like we're having now. So
Yeah.
I think I would just tell her, like, you're doing okay, right? It's not
Yeah.
perfect. And I know that's uncomfortable and you think you're letting some
Yeah.
folks down, but it's all for the best.
Yeah.
It's all
Well,
for the
have you ever seen the movie Interstellar?
Oh, yeah.
So remember the scene at the end when he's like looking back and he's trying to tell her something
Yeah.
and she can't hear him?
Yeah.
Like that's an interesting dynamic of like being able to see something that someone else can't. In his case, he wanted to tell her and he was stopped. In your case, you would maybe want to tell her something, but you know you shouldn't, so you wouldn't. But that I think to let past you make those mistakes, like if you think about being a parent or just a boss, sometimes
Mm-hmm.
you have to do that. So tell me about that dynamic of just letting people fail,
Jeez. Letting people fail.
especially people you love.
That's a really interesting area to explore. One of the keynotes that I'm preparing right now is called True Confessions of a Toxic Manager because I think when I was in my early corporate leadership roles, I was so afraid to fail that it made me very worried about other people
Hmm.
because it would be a reflection on me.
Yeah. So
So
your reputation or something
Ye
else.
yes,
Yeah.
definitely. Reputation, yep, and that again, that internal sense of, being enough, being successful and having
Hmm.
that just kind of that low key anxiety all the time. So I think the thing that I would coach some of my clients on now, especially those who are new managers and new leaders, there's a concept about the water line. Okay, so you picture a ship and it's sitting in the water, and part of the hull is underneath the water and part of it is above.
Okay.
Failures that happen above the water line are not going to sink the ship, right? So if you poke a hole in the side of the boat that's above the water line, okay, this is inconvenient. We will patch it up with some duct tape or some tar or whatever, and we will sail on.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for leaders, mentors, to allow people to fail above the waterline. Now, if it's, hey, you're 22 and we're going to just fly you out to see our biggest client alone, unprepared. And if you mess up, you're going to ruin 70% of the company's revenue. Like that's a below the waterline failure. So leaders should not set up their folks for failure
Yeah.
that are really going to sink the ship.
So
That's
I think that, yeah, I think that's such an amazing visual because, obviously we have to discern like what is below and above the waterline, but it
that's hard.
creates this visual framework to identify the difference between what is an existential threat
Yep.
that will destroy us all and what is a failure, maybe a safe failure is a good way to say that. And I think as a society or a large portion of our society, we have become so controlling that we protect the upper side of above the waterline failures to such a degree that the under the lines become more likely because people aren't who they need to be in order
Yes.
to go. Yeah, dive into that.
Yeah. Well, mistakes are going to happen. So I think as a leader, how can you create a psychologically safe space where folks can say, I don't know, or they say, I need help, or I messed up. So if,
Hmm.
if you can establish trust with the small failures, I think
So
it.
what do you mean by that? Because are you suggesting like, hey, someone fails, but you still have enough trust to operate within those failures? Is that what you mean, or do you mean something else?
When I think about how leaders can establish trust with their teams, I think it's everything from demonstrating vulnerability to expressing genuine concern for who are you? Do you have kids? What do you like to do on weekends? Someone said to me once, I wish I could remember where I read this or where I heard this, but if you don't try and get in touch with your own inner child, your team's inner child, they're going to bring it to work anyway. You
Mm,
just won't be able to recognize that they're
yeah.
bringing in their father was very hard on them, or they had to compete with, 13 siblings to get attention and those kinds of things. So I think it's really just opening up a lot of those soft conversations when when the boat is not even in the water,
Yeah,
when you're not
yeah.
even working on a project where there is potential failure.
And so where does the controlling behavior, how does it unfold from protecting below the water line to starting to protect higher and higher up the water line?
When you say controlling behavior, what do you mean?
Well, like protective controlling behaviors. I can't let them, let's say it's in your business. I can't let this person have, let's say, social media control over social media because they might post something and it has a spelling error. So now
Mm.
I'm sort of controlling something that, like, if there's a spelling error, probably no one's going to care.
Mhm.
Um, but now as a maybe a business owner has become so controlling that they're literally like micromanaging in that
Mhm.
way.
Mhm.
Whereas they're, instead of going, okay, that's above the line
Mhm.
issue, I'm controlling it as if it's a below the line.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think that
I get
creeps
what you're
over
asking.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've coached a client on recently around this area is get together with your folks and hit reset and establish what are sort of those minimum baseline requirements of success. This is what's most important on our social media account. Does everything
Hmm.
need to be spelled perfectly? No. But just riffing and making some big political statement without approval, okay, that goes in the squarely not okay
Yeah.
category. So I think if you can democratically involve your folks in saying what are those minimum requirements of success, and as long as these are taken care of,
Mm.
I'm not going to get in your way. But if we are not sure, oh, is this political or is this not political?
Yeah. Well, it sounds like kind of I guess what I'm hearing you say is you define where the line is, what is above and what is below.
I think so.
Yeah.
But not just doing it with a bullhorn,
Yeah,
with a
as a
megaphone, right?
dictation,
Doing
but
it
as a
democratically.
collaborative participatory process.
It's slow. And I think
Yeah.
that's why a lot of leaders avoid doing it. It can
Mm,
feel nonlinear,
yeah.
inefficient, but slow is smooth and smooth is fast, I love
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
phrase.